Hello, my name is Jenn Duncan, and I am a grade 8 teacher at Queen Charlotte Intermediate. And I would like to share with you my presentation on school restructuring from the bottom up and the value that should be placed in teacher leadership and professional learning communities. I think that at some point in time we have all been there, that staff meeting in which we were just informed that changes are being made. Changes that are going to impact our teaching methods and our students' learning. Changes that have come from the top down. We don't have a choice or a voice in these so-called changes. In the article, The Problem-Solving Power of Teachers, Ariel Sachs describes her personal experiences in the classroom and the changes she has encountered. 10 years ago, an eager young Sachs entered the teaching profession with aspirations of contributing to those changes that are constructed for the educational experiences of our youth. At the time, Sachs was unaware that she would find herself immersed in what she calls a veritable smorgasbord of educational experiments. Some of these experiments have been positive, while others have been troubling. However, one thing that they each had in common were that the policymakers implementing those changes were at the top. In addition to Sachs' article that I summarize, I'm going to discuss the current state of reform on the PEI education system and reference the book Revisiting Professional Learning Communities at Work, New Insights for Improving Schools, in which the authors propose the implementation of professional learning communities as a solution for reform. I related to Sachs when she stated, "I know we need to be willing to try new things and find out what does and doesn't work. But sadly, most of the experiments in education reform come from the imaginations of people who don't actually teach children." Sachs uses the example of the Common Core State Standards Initiative, which has been labeled the most far-reaching experiment in American educational history, in which only a handful of teachers had input. She states that the best solutions to problems in education may just come from those closest to the students. For the most part, top-down initiatives in education often end up being out of sync with the realities of what is happening in classes. Many ideologies in theory seem like the ultimate fix. However, in practice, they can be disastrous. I think my fellow teachers have been in my shoes when our superintendent has addressed the PEITF at our May Day. Many of us have sat in shock at the comments because of the disconnect between what was being said and what we were experiencing in our classrooms. I know that teachers may not always have a choice in decisions, but we should have a voice. Our input is valuable, and it is very disheartening and disconcerting when our voices fall on deaf ears. In her article, Sachs describes a situation in which a harmless policy in theory became a messy policy in practice. The principal of her middle school implemented a policy without consulting or collaborating with his staff. The policy was about missing homework. It stated that if a student missed 2 homework assignments in a single week, they would be required to serve an after-school detention. The teacher simply needed to inform the parents of the date of the detention and receive confirmation. Sounds simple enough, right? Not quite. What ensued were teachers spending hours at lunchtime and after school emailing or calling families of the numerous students who had missed 2 or more homework assignments. As with any contact home, questions about specifics, claims the assignment were done, and requests to hand in outstanding work the next day began happening. There was also schedule conflicts, and teachers had to reschedule times of detentions for their students. The policy and practice became much more complicated than on paper. How did Sachs and her colleagues address this issue? they took matters into their own hands and the teachers devised a solution. During a grade level meeting, the homework detention issue came up, and through teacher leadership, the team was able to envision a solution to present to their principal. In her school, Sachs and her colleagues had been assigned office hours for students looking for extra help and support. Many of the students that had outstanding work did not take advantage of those office hours. A solution was created, and the grade 8 team proposed that 8th grade office hours be held in one common place, and that teachers could go to that location to work with students. With this model, it was proposed that they could stop assigning homework detention and make mandatory office hours for the students who needed it. Teachers could also make up a duty schedule and assign tasks. The solution was presented to and supported by the principal. He loved the idea so much that he encouraged the model to be shared with other grade levels. From this example, we can learn that a teacher-driven solution is often far better suited to the problem than a top-down one. Teachers are at the front line and have knowledge about what works best and what will fail in the education system. We need to be an advocate for change on behalf of students in order to provide students with tools for success. The example described in the article can relate to many educational issues. As teachers, we have all seen those issues in our classroom, whether it be curriculum development, assessment, inclusive education, supporting refugee and EAL students, are just a few among a long list. The main point is that the higher-ups need to trust teachers to create solutions and not micromanage with top-down agendas. The topic of school restructuring is definitely a hot topic on Prince Edward Island currently. It is fitting that I was assigned this topic, as last Friday, employees of the English Language School Board received the following email. Dear staff, we are working to create a more effective education administration that is reflective of the needs of the learner. By moving from 2 levels of administration in the English public schools to one integrated departmental team, we will implement a more focused approach to student excellence. Staffing of our senior management team at the Department of Education, Early Learning and Culture is an important step in this process. I am pleased to announce some of the staffing details today. The English Language School Board will be led by Parker Grimmer. He will lead the English Public School branch, supporting excellence in student achievement in the English public school system, ensuring students experience a quality education within a safe and secure, student-centered learning environment. That email was from our Minister of Education, Doug Curry. What I find interesting is that Parker is the former principal of my school, Queen Charlotte Intermediate, where I have taught for the past 12 years. Minister of Education Doug Curry is restructuring and hiring individuals that have been at the front line. During a parting conversation with Parker, I wished him the best and told him that I was happy he was going into his new role, as he had heard our concerns and had saw where reform needs to happen. In reply, he stated, "Yes, and if I ever start to lose sight of that, I want to hear from you." It is my hopes that he will have a strong connections with teachers and listen to the concerns as to what reforms need to happen for the success of our students. I think in Minister Curry's email, he strongly states that success of our students is a priority, which most teachers would agree with. During his time at Queen Charlotte, Parker introduced the idea of professional learning communities to his staff. A professional learning community, known as a PLC, is defined as Educators committed to working collaboratively in ongoing process of collective inquiry and action research to achieve better results for the students they serve. In Sack's case, her and her co-workers had elements of a PLC in devising a solution to the homework detention issue. I would be confident in saying if the principal had given the teachers the opportunity to collaborate and devise a solution from the get-go, much time and headaches may have been saved. The steps Parker took towards making educational reforms and valuing teacher leadership at Queen Charlotte were through professional learning communities. The model of professional learning communities reinforces what I have discussed in my prior slides in regards to teacher leadership. The solution to school reform is not pouring more new teachers into the school, but to make schools a more inviting and rewarding place for all educators who work there. W. Edwards Deming once observed, "Put a good person into a bad system, and the system wins, every time, no contest." By implementing professional learning communities into school, reforms can happen from the bottom up, making the system better. The 4 pillars of a professional learning community are: first and foremost, the team must define a mission. Why do we exist? Secondly, it is important to create a shared vision. What do we hope to become? Thirdly, state their values. What commitments must we make to create the school or district that will improve our ability to fulfill our purpose? And finally, to set goals. What goals will we use to monitor progress? When a teacher becomes actively involved in a professional learning community, they will provide leadership essential to the success of reform. For our discussion, I have a couple key questions that I want you to think about. I'm going to draw on your own personal experiences in your workplace. I want you to think about your own experiences with reform in your chosen profession. Can you describe a situation in which you have been involved in changes? Or can you identify a problem in your workplace in which you can envision a solution? What was or could be the outcome of it? And was it positive or negative, and why? This presentation has only discussed one model of reform from the bottom up with a focus on teacher leadership and professional learning communities. Do you agree or disagree with this model, and why? If you disagree, is there a better way? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and concerns and to a great discussion. Have a great week, everybody.